Hi, friends. Happy Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. We are really getting into a groove here with our distant learning. So let's continue. Today we are talking about tangrams. So we're going to continue talking about shapes, but we're going to use tangrams today to describe them. So this is a tangram. Right? I'm sure you've seen this in first grade or maybe kindergarten. We haven't used them in second grade yet, but this is what a tangram is. It has different shapes. I just haven't cut them out yet because I want to start talking about the whole shape first. So let's start there. Let's identify what this whole shape is called. Now, let me use a ruler 1 minute to help you decide what shape this is. If I measure each side, let's see. This side is, let's say, about 6. This side is about 6. This side is about 6. And this side is about 6. So it has 4 sides. They're all equal. Let's see, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. And each angle is a square. A square corner. Okay? So, and they're square corners. Also, and lastly, we hold it up here. If I were to continue on with this top line forever and ever and ever, and with the bottom forever and ever and ever, these two lines would never touch. So that makes one set of parallel lines. And the same goes for this side. There, another pair of parallel lines. So there are 2 pairs of parallel lines. So what shape do we have here before I cut it up? We have, sorry you can't see all of it, a square. Great, now I'm going to cut it up. I'm going to cut it on this line right down the middle, okay? So let me cut this. Try to be as neat as possible. Okay, and now we're going to put this side to the side, and we're just going to look at this side, okay? This shape is made up of 2 smaller shapes, and we're actually going to be doing that tomorrow's math lesson, okay? So today we're just going to look at the shapes and go over them, and tomorrow we're going to actually use the shapes to make shapes. So this shape is made up of 2 smaller shapes. Now let's talk about what shape is this, the big shape. I'm pretty sure you all know it is a triangle, okay? It has 3 sides and 3 angles. Now what's cool about this triangle is it actually has, I'm going to hold it this way, a square corner. Okay, so if you see, it has 1 square corner and 2 other angles, okay? Now, if we cut it in half, again, Now we have 2 triangles, and each triangle has 1 square corner. So it's kind of cool how you can have 2 shapes come together to make, sorry friends, it's really hard doing this backwards, to make a bigger of the same shape. But you can also put shapes together to make different shapes. I'm going to put these 2 up here, okay, because we identified these 2. We know that these 2 are triangles. And I'm going to put it this way, okay? So these are triangles. I'm going to write it down. Okay, we know they have 3 sides, 3 angles, and we know that these triangles are special because they each have 1 square angle. So one of these angles is a square angle, or a square corner, we can call it. Okay, I'm going to move this over. So we don't get confused. Okay, now remember we have this half left. I want you to look at it and think to yourself for a moment, what shapes do you see in this shape? We know this is a triangle again, right? What other shapes do you see? I'm going to give you a couple seconds, okay? And I'm going to tell you what I see. Okay, so I see 1 triangle, 2 triangles, and 3 triangles. But I also see a couple of trapezoids. If you put this square and this triangle together, you get a trapezoid. But first, let's cut off this triangle on the top. Okay, I'm gonna try to show you as I do it. Okay, now let's look. We have another triangle. Let's check and see if it matches our characteristics of these triangles. So, it does have 1 square angle. This corner is perfectly matched to our square corner. So let's add this triangle with our other triangles, okay? That have 1 square angle or 1 square corner. We can also call it, okay? Angle or corner. Okay. Now let's look at this shape. Let's ignore all of the shapes inside of it. What would you call this shape? This big shape. It has 1 pair of parallel lines. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So think back to what shape has 1 pair of parallel lines and 4 sides. Yeah, it's a trapezoid, right? Trapezoids have 1 pair of parallel lines and it has 4 sides, okay? And this trapezoid has no right angles, square corners, okay? Now I'm going to cut this in half again, okay? And then we're going to talk about what shapes we see next. Cutting it in half. And let's look at this side. So you could look at it and say, well, I see a triangle and I see a square. But if you look at it together, let's talk about what shape this is. If it helps you, let's flip it over and look at it this way, okay? I see, again, 1 pair of parallel lines, right? The top and the bottom, because this side and this side would touch if they kept going up, okay? And I see 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So this is another trapezoid. It's made out of a triangle and a square, but it makes it into a trapezoid. Okay, this trapezoid is different from the last one because look, it has a square corner. It actually has 2 square corners. Okay, now let's look again and let's cut this into another shape. Let's do this one. We know that this is a square. We talked about squares already, so I'm going to put it in our square category. It has 4 sides. They are all equal. It has 4 corners. All of their corners are square corners. And it has 2 pairs of parallel lines, okay? So then with this square, it also had another triangle. Let's see if this triangle fits the same characteristics with 3 sides, 3 angles, and one of those angles being a square angle or a square corner. So let's see. This angle is not square. This angle is not square. But if we turn it like this, look, this angle is square. So even though it's a little bit smaller than the other ones, we now have another triangle with 3 sides, 3 angles, and 1 square angle and one square corner. Now let's look at the last of our tangrams. Remember, we started as a big square and I've been cutting them up into smaller shapes. And tomorrow we're going to go back and put them together and make new shapes. So again, we have a shape with 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. 2 of the sides are parallel. These 2 sides over here and over here are not parallel because if they keep going, they're going to touch, okay? So we know we have a trapezoid, right? Very similar to the other trapezoid, it has 1 and then, 2 square corners, okay? Now let's cut this up one more time. The last cut. Let's talk about this one since we've already talked about these. This has 3 sides, right? 3 angles, so we know it is a triangle. Let's just double check, make sure it does have that 1 square corner, and it does. Remember, a triangle doesn't have to have a square angle or a square corner. We are just describing the triangles that we have in this tangram. So this one I'm going to put next to it because it's the same size. And let's look at our last shape. We have this shape. Kind of looks a little bit different than what we have. It's definitely not a square. It's definitely not a triangle because it has 4 sides. So let's put it up here in our new shape. Let's see what the sides look like. It's definitely going to have 1 pair of parallel lines because these 2 are never going to touch. But it also has another pair because these lines are never going to touch. So what shape has, let's see, 4 sides, 4 angles, 2 pairs of parallel lines, and let's see, does it have any right angles? That's that's not a right angle. That's not a right angle. That's not a right angle. And that's not a right angle. So it has no right angles. What's the name for this shape? If you're thinking to yourself, parallelogram, you are exactly right, okay? So we cut up our tangrams. Now we have all of these different shapes. We have squares, triangles, and one parallelogram. All together, let's count how many shapes make up a tangram. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shapes. So we started with one big square, we cut it up, and now we have 7 different shapes. We have one square, 4 triangles, and one parallelogram, okay? So like I said, tomorrow we're going to use these shapes to make different shapes, put them together, maybe make a trapezoid or a rectangle or something like that, okay? You do have a seesaw activity for today, so go ahead and get started. Thanks, friends.